Or I'm gonna just start on in, man. Um, yeah, one thing I have to say is that you gotta let parents be parents. Um, I'm just going off the top of my dome. So if I forget the exact time and dates and laws, whatever, forgive me. But just wanted to speak on the two bills that's going on. I think one that's been passed or is about to be passed. I believe in Washington and in Tennessee regarding parents' consent or parents being uh, not giving consent or their children being able to be taken away based off of their agreement or disagreement to their child's transition. So, with that being said, I'm all for parents that want their child or that is cool with their child. Let me phrase that transition. Okay, I feel like that's between them and the child and the family and God. Right, but really it's between them and the child. All right, the mother, father, and the child. I don't feel like if a parent uh, disagrees that the child should be taken from them. Now, this is what, and I'm gonna go into solutions to these issues. Giving the parents take on it. How can I put it? Giving the parents take on it, view on it. This individual comes from your loins. You are responsible for them. Um, you're supposed to take care of them, right? You feed them, you clothe them. They have bear your name, so which is a sign of to a degree ownership. So until they reach a certain point in life, you can say no, you cannot play at PlayStation. That's supposed to be your right. No, you didn't do your chores, so you don't get to go out and play with your friends until you do your chores, right? That is your right. But when it comes to them transitioning, like I say, that should or transition. One parent doesn't want that. It should be perfectly up to that parent to say, I don't want that, and still be able to be a parent. As much as ones don't like it, but they say, well, in my house, you must conduct yourself a certain way. That is just how it goes. All right. So if you're not paying the bills, if you're not contributing to the bills of the house, if you're not been emancipated, okay, to a very certain degree, what your parents set goes, set in stone, the laws and rules of their house, which you are up under, which you came from up under. All right, just like in the government could say, hey, you don't get certain things from us unless you do X, Y, and Z. We're not going to provide certain services to you unless you show this, unless you do that. But when it comes to the parents saying, hey, I don't want this for my child, then you're going to take them away, or the child could be taken away from them. All right. Which in some cases now, here's the catch, there probably needs to be, because I think this is what Tennessee is, no, Washington is doing, if they disagree. So if the parents disagree in Washington, okay, I'm just looking at in Washington, they could be taken away from the parent that disagrees with the transition. I think in Tennessee, I believe they have or passing bill. If I think a parent does, I think either get them to transition or wants to transition, that they can be the child could be taken away from that parent. So it's just one thing for tit for tat for tit for tat because uh, one thing people have to realize that not everybody, and I wish people were, are going to agree with transitioning. Hell, even in Thailand, when you think of a trans utopia, you probably on this earth, you probably would think of Thailand, right? I heard of a trans woman in Thailand mention how her father didn't like, trans, right? Didn't like trans. So she had certain issues here and there, I believe, with her. No, I think it was either her father or uncle, right? Because, he didn't like, even though, like I said, trans women are everywhere in Thailand, right? There were still people, you can still find people, yes, who are from Thailand who have issues with it. Okay? So you can have 90%, you're still gonna have maybe 10%, you're still gonna have 20%. But she never hated her father. She never, I believe it was her father, her uncle. She never felt like it's abuse. Now, abuse, I feel like they need to be taken away is if, they start, throwing certain uh, derogatory statements. How can I say? As far as physical abuse, then in that point, I feel like okay, on each side, if one's agree to disagree, that they start showing physical abuse, signs of physical abuse to that child, all right, then they should be taken away. I feel like there's at least there's grounds of even questioning or talking about being taken away, or they're not, feeding them. They're not feeding them. They're not clothing them. They're not doing their duties as a parent to them. But just because they say, hey, yeah, I can feed you, I can clothe you, but I'm not going to, feed you hormones. Or I am going to feed you hormones, and you're going to take my child away from me with them. Especially if the child uh, wants this, or if you've been to a doctor and say yes, they have, a form of gender dysphoria, things like that, where this is healthy for the child's upbringing. They shouldn't be taken away from the parent because, or they are in agreement to that. So if I remember it right, I just think even if I had a right agree to it, that you or disagree, and it goes, I guess, to the police or court, whatever, you could be, or CPS, you could have your child taken away from you. I don't know the whole process. I just think what happened, but just seeing the news clips here and there, people talking about it here and there. And I think I've read just a little bit, found little articles, but I haven't had time, there's so much stuff going on. I'm just boom, 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 this bill, that bill, this bill, the bill, constitutional carry. And I found out here in Florida, they have another bill that helps with constitutional carry. That's going should if DeSantis sign it, should go into law the same day as constitutional carry. That's July 1st. So where you don't have to be 21, you could be 18 and still possess, I think possess and carry a firearm if I have it right, right? So yeah. But that's the only good thing I can say about DeSantis is, you know, well, no, actually too, the whole mask, face mask, can't forget about that. You have to wear your face mask. We wasn't in a whole dystopian type of present future here, and yeah, I guess constitutional carry, if you want to call it that, because it doesn't have open carry, which I'm not a big fan of open carry, but not to make this thing into that. Stand on topic. Yeah, parents should be able to be parents, man. Let parents be parents. Okay, uh, let the children be children, whether you agree to transition or not. You know, let the children be the children. Like I said, there were certain things that I wasn't able to do until I got to a certain point in my life. I don't. Was I rest in peace? Was I mad at my mom a little bit when I told her I was trans attracted? Yeah, but I didn't. I didn't. I didn't feel like, oh man, they should have just taken, my mother away from me, or they should just take, people. Like no, because my mother had her police. Of course, she started changing uh, near her passing, but or being open, but to this day, people know, like I said, there's nobody like my mother, so I didn't feel like my mother, hated me or whatever like that, or even hated trans people, or hated. She just, wasn't with it. So it just feel like, people are just going to the extreme when it comes to things in this country. If somebody knocks on your door, let me shoot them. If somebody agrees with something, let's just boom, take the children away. If they agree to a transition or disagree to a transition, take the child away from that parent that disagrees, take the parent away from the child that agrees, and it's becoming not too much of a separation between church and state. It's becoming almost like a police. They're trying to make it into a police state almost with these laws from both sides. Like I tell people, it's all about control. If you don't believe or accept that trans is bad, then in this county or this state or whatever that particular state, then you are bad. Okay, if you do not accept it, if you disagree with it, I mean, if you disagree or we agree on, right? So if you're for transitioning of your child, I believe it's Tennessee, then we gotta take a child away from it because one parent agrees and the other parent disagrees. So the parent who don't want their child to transition to Washington, going to Washington, is the bad parent. Like I said, we're playing like good cop, bad cop here. Um, the solution to such a thing is, like I say, if there are rumors of actual neglect going on, and I feel like there should be uh, separation between the couple, between the parents. So maybe this parent say, well, hey, they're gonna be with me for a while. Okay, you can still come and visit them, but they're gonna still be with me, right? Or working things out. Well, neglect, like I say, that I feel like that should be grounds of taken away. But let's just say of strong disagreements, like the father or the mother still loves the child, they just disagree. Okay, you're not neglecting them, you're not physically harming them based on how they want to identify, how they do identify, right? Because most parents know they have a trans son or daughter, they just say religion is holding and keeping them back from accepting God's units. But that's on embracing. Um, okay. So with that, yeah, being said, there's a solution that you can do. That's separate, but in a sense equal. You can separate, and like I say, you can still be in the child's life, but those two just don't agree. And I've known parents who were married, still married, but they just could not get along. But there was no issue in the sense of quote unquote custody per se. It's just okay, or I'll keep the son, or I'll keep the daughter, and you can still visit. I'll still bring them over and everything like that, but they'll live with me for the most part. It was just like okay, they'll stay with me, or vice versa, they'll stay with you, and I'll come visit them, right? Okay, because yeah, because of the strong disagreement or whatever the case may be, and who is able maybe to take care of the child more, better financially, and this, that, or that. I'll just keep them and this, that, and other. So you could disagree with it, but you don't have to be in my house. In my house, it's not gonna go happen. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about that. Okay. So if the child wants to transition, and you have a parent who doesn't want it, who just they're not for it, as long as they're paying the bills, as long as this, that, and the other. I mean, they still love their child, but they don't want that going on, right? They don't want all the time. You feel me? Like they'll still hang out with their child, they still love their child, they still take care of their child, all that. They just don't want. Then okay, you have them most of the time. I have them sometimes. You feel me? But they don't want to wake up every day, and yeah, you just go live with your mom and do all that. But can't we like we're not gonna do that. If you can even do that, because it could be to a point where it could uh, maybe cause a divorce if two, and this is why I tell bad couples and people got to talk about a lot of things before they get married, man. Talk about a lot of things. Ones hate to talk about politics, whatever. Um, I mean, hell, maybe even talk about that. And I don't mean in the sense of who do you go for, Biden or this one. No, uh, are you more conservative leaning in your, ways of thinking? Do people think that you're conservative? Do people think that you're more liberal? It doesn't mean that that person might not have a little bit of liberal things about them. They might not realize what the other person might, but you kind of get a better idea of what you're kind of getting into. Uh, do you believe in God? You don't believe in God. Do you believe in the Bible? You don't believe in the Bible. Do you believe in, keeping the Sabbath day? You know what I mean? Or whatever I say just goes. It's that kind of relationship. Whatever I do, whatever religion you're just gonna follow. Okay, follow me. But if that's not the case, you feel me? It's best to really talk about. Even if that is the case, just talk about it. But definitely make sure that you're uh, equally yoked because, yeah, um, if you believe in trans is, and then some people could have changed. They could have never really believed in it when they got married. They never really. But then when they had a child, they go to the doctor, and the doctor is saying your child have XY. They're XY male, or they have Klinefelters. Klinefelters, they're probably intersex. What do you do then? Okay, because if somebody is born with this genitalia, they must have these chromosomes. They must have this amount of hormones, right? And when it's not that case, what do you do? What do you do when you find out that your child is different than what you was told that they were supposed to be if they was born as such? Okay, so that could be. I've known of women and men who have went through that struggle of what do I do with my child who has ambiguous genitalia. You see what I'm saying? Uh, where this part is bigger than that part downstairs in the private area. What do I do? And some parents just took certain doctors' advice because of their ignorance and beliefs, remove those areas from them. And the children, when they grew up, they felt like that's why I say this type of when the children grew up, they felt that their parents and the doctors primarily took a part of their life because their their minds in line with the body part that was taken from them, that was cut off or that was closed up or whatever, that was surgically removed without their consent, they feel traumatized. You see, that's the other part that ones I want to talk about from the more right leaning way of saying, oh, well, whatever, they have a penis, just go ahead and penis or whatever the case may be, right? Well, I feel that you are a man, so you're a man. Well, I feel like you're a woman because I just go ahead and get that part taken away. Instead of them trying to say, no, you know what, I don't think I want to do that. So I feel like to a degree, yes, parents have the right to say, hey, I mean, if the child didn't have such to that degree of situation, just they can still be there. But if you have a parent who said, no, I want to remove certain body parts, um, that could be an issue. Um, even circumcision can be an issue because that's a surgical procedure. People, when they tell me, oh, you shouldn't be doing those surgeries on a child, you know, uh, that is surgery. That is removal of how you was born. Most males, I think of not all males, usually are born with foreskins. So the removal of that is to remove how you was born. How you was born down there. We was born down there with foreskin. But because of health, one's mentioned health, and one's mentioned, of course, the Bible. And I'm a big believer of the Bible for those who new to my lives or new to my channel. Uh, that is a commandment, right? But also Paul speaks on the uncircumcised with the circumcised, going down with the uncircumcised, or of those who aren't uncircumcised, just let them keep following Yah. But that's a whole thing in itself, right? Let them keep following Christ, right? And so yeah, we could this it's a lot of levels to it. But like I said, being a parent and parent is not an easy thing. It's not. Uh, it's a major responsibility and it's a major job that never ends. Even if your child is probably grown, it's probably you're still gonna have them some instincts and things like that. But definitely while they're still in that child stage, right, or that not adult stage, right, and not adults, that's a big responsibility. That's a big, and like I said, every family, especially every man, has a blueprint of how they want their family to be. So it's one of those things where you just have to really be mindful of what you're doing, um, how you could be harming your child, and also the government, how you could be harming that child by taking away from the parent that agrees or disagrees, right? It's one of, like I say, it's levels. Like I say, intersex and trans are different sides of the same coin. According to my research, and I even heard trans women say this who are more, knowledgeable on intersex and trans, because there are trans women who are born intersex at a good amount, or um, there was ones who parents said, yeah, the doctor said that he was going to be different. They told him in their child in so many ways, when he was born, even the doctors told us that, there was something different about what they found, such and such and such. Okay. Um, yeah. But because the parent was so, oh, I might have did something wrong for my child to be born like this, they carry this weight of shame and denying their child to just grow on how they, and some parents feel like, well, if I let them transition early, that people's going to attack them. People is going to, and I could definitely understand that aspect. They feel like, yeah, people just going to be attacking them and targeting them because, of how they identify, and it's like I'm already responsible for this, that, and the other. Now, people, but you have parents who deny their child. Um, then the children have to figure it out. They hard for them to come to that realization that, yeah, my child is a woman. All right, my child brain does not function as a young boy. My child brain does not function as a young girl, even though they was born with but no, their mind and their attitude and their way they do things is not of a female nature, right? Or is not of a man or male. It's instead of just embracing that, it can be, kind of hard. But if you have parents who haven't wasn't told that, oh yeah, they're just doing stuff based off of. So it's a lot of this level of abusing, taking away parents' rights, but also parents abusing their child knowingly or unknowingly. It's a system thing because you have the parents and their ignorance, willfully or unwillfully, willingly ignorant. Then you have the doctors. Then you have the whole school system. Then you have religious institutions. It's like it's levels of this, right? The historical aspect that they try to sweep under the rug. Existence of trans people in this country, and there's levels to it. So, but yeah, um, but when people do, thank babe. When people look at the levels to it, that there is um, a lot of damage that's being done on certain parts and certain levels, and there's people responsible for it. And especially, I would say, even doctors. But man, I know people who are doctors, and they is just as ignorant and willingly ignorant at that on trans children, on trans, people. And you would think, well, as a doctor, you would know about the trisomies. You would know about, oh Lord.